Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. An oil depot in Russia's Rostov region ablaze after Ukraine's drone attack. A day after, Zelensky says Kursk advance is part of a victory plan. Donald Trump faces a revised indictment accusing him of illegally trying to overturn his 2020 election loss. Israel frees a hostage from Gaza. The US says it remains hopeful of a possible Gaza ceasefire agreement. And the Paralympic Games is set to open in Paris. More than 4,000 athletes to take part in it. We begin in West Asia, where Israeli strikes were reported on Jenin and Tubas in the West Bank on Wednesday. The Israeli army posted on social media platform X that it has begun an operation to counter terrorism in Jenin and Tulkarm. Surveillance video from Jenin showed Israeli military vehicles moving down the street early Wednesday. Earlier, Israeli troops recovered a 52-year-old Israeli hostage from inside Gaza. Israel's military on Tuesday released footage of a strike on what it said was a Hezbollah military structure in a village in southern Lebanon. Israel's military said on Tuesday that its soldiers had identified a terrorist cell operating within a Hezbollah military structure in the area of Odessa in southern Lebanon. It struck the structure and eliminated the cell. Hezbollah on Sunday fired rockets and drones at Israeli military sites in retaliation for the killing of a top commander by Israel last month, and Israeli jets targeted approximately 40 launch sites in Lebanon. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said on Tuesday that the United States remains committed to defending Israel against an Iranian attack and was hopeful about a possible Gaza ceasefire agreement. Kirby said that it was tough to predict the chances of an attack, but the White House takes Iranian statements seriously. He remained upbeat over a possible Gaza ceasefire deal to end the conflict and return the remaining Israeli hostages, saying that he looks forward to more such talks in Qatar soon. And Sarah Coates joins us from Tel Aviv. Sarah, what can you tell us about this Israeli military raid in the West Bank?
Hello there, Ramesh. This is ongoing, being seen as the largest raid since 2002 during the second Intifada. It's happening in 3 different locations, Tubas, Tulkarm and in Jenin. According to the Palestinian Authority, at least 9 people have been killed since this began in both ground and airstrikes. So certainly very, very concerning. We've also got a statement from Israel's Foreign Minister, Israel Katz. He said that the IDF has been operating with full force since last night in the Jenin and Tulkarm refugee camps to dismantle Iranian Islamic terror infrastructure established there, saying that Iran is working to establish an eastern terror front against Israel in Judea and Samaria following the Gaza and Lebanon model. But this is of great concern. This is what the United States has been warning about now for months, telling Israel that it needs to keep a lid on the West Bank, saying that it could turn into a third front. So, of course, very, very concerning. And we do understand there are hundreds of troops on the ground, and this raid could go on for days. Ramesh.
You refer to the US, Sarah. The US, for its part, says it remains hopeful of a Gaza ceasefire agreement. Now, are the talks continuing in Qatar after an earlier round of talks wrapped up in Cairo?
They are continuing in Qatar, Ramesh. Very low-level talks, though, and with regards to what we've been hearing from the United States, the only optimism coming from any of these mediating parties is from the United States. The White House spokesperson, John Kirby, he came out to say that talks have not broken down, that they remain optimistic, but certainly, once again, the US being the only optimistic party there, we do understand that a very low-level working team from the Shin Bet and the Mossad is in Doha trying to iron out these very large gaps between Israel and Hamas, the biggest, of course, being Israel's control over the Philadelphia corridor. That's that very narrow strip of land that separates Gaza and Egypt, and one that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will not pull troops from, saying this could see a resurgence of weapons smuggling from Egypt into Gaza. So certainly not getting any closer, it appears, to this ceasefire and hostage deal. But there is, of course, a lot of pressure on the Israeli government to get this deal done, especially after, as you mentioned, that 52-year-old Bedouin man was rescued from the Gaza Strip, the southern part of the Strip, late yesterday. And the Hostages and Missing Persons Forum have put out a statement saying that while this was a miraculous recovery of this man, that it really shows that more needs to be done and the rest of these 104 Israeli hostages need to be brought home now.
Sarah, we leave it there. Thank you. Sarah Coates reporting there from Tel Aviv. And moving from one conflict to another, an oil depot in Russia's Kamenetsky district in the Rostov region was on fire after a purported drone attack by Ukraine. A footage released on Wednesday showed the fire in the oil depot. A Telegram channel close to Russia's security services said 3 tanks were burning after 2 drones fell on the territory of the oil depot. The attack comes while tanks were still on fire at another Rostov oil depot in the Proletarsk district. While Rostov's governor Vasily Golubev said 4 Ukraine-launched drones were destroyed over the region. He added that no casualties were reported and the firefighters are extinguishing the fire. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said operation in the Kursk region is a part of a plan to end the conflict, about which he'd be talking to US President Joe Biden.
Operation in the Kursk region is a part of a plan about which I will be talking with President Biden. The main point of this plan is to force Russia to end the war. And I really want it to end on fair terms for Ukraine. If the plan is accepted and delivered, which is also very important, if these 2 elements work together, then we believe that our main aim will be reached.
Meanwhile, Russia said that its air defense units destroyed 12 drones that Ukraine launched overnight, targeting the Rostov and Voronezh regions. Quoting Russian Foreign Ministry, the state news agency said Moscow wants the UN nuclear watchdog to take a more objective and clearer stance. The Director General of International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, visited the construction site of a new nuclear reactor in Kursk on Tuesday. He inspected the damage from the drone strike and warned of the dangers of a serious nuclear accident there. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg will be convening a meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council on Wednesday at Kyiv's request. The meeting will be held at the ambassadorial level. Ukraine's Defense Minister Rustem Umarov is expected to brief the allies via a video link on the battlefield situation and priority capability needs. The NATO-Ukraine Council was established last year to enable closer coordination between the alliance and Ukraine. And Dasha Chernyshova joins us from Moscow for more. Dasha, what more can you tell us about this oil depot fire that was hit by a Ukrainian drone in Russia's Rostov region?
Well, it is the second fire that we are talking about in the Rostov region in a matter of a week. The local authorities have confirmed that an oil depot has caught fire as a result of a Ukrainian drone attack against the region. That a lot of 4 drones, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, have been intercepted over the region. No casualties have been reported. However, the fire is being extinguished. We also understand that there was the emergency situation introduced in another area of Russia, in the Voronezh region. 8 drones have attacked the area, and we understand because of the fire at a warehouse, the emergency has been introduced there as well. So we are talking about the continuous and ongoing Ukrainian attempts to strike Russia with its drones. Every morning we are getting the reports from the Russian Ministry of Defense with regards to how many drones and over which regions have been intercepted.
Dasha, is Russia succeeding in stopping or repelling the Ukrainian advance in Kursk? Now, Moscow is reported as saying that the West was playing with fire by allowing Ukraine to strike deep into Russia with Western missiles. It's also cautioned the US that World War III would not be just confined to Europe.
Well, speaking about the situation in the Kursk region, you have to keep in mind that Russia has been forced to evacuate people while it is repelling this Ukrainian incursion. And on a daily basis, the Ministry of Defense is releasing the videos and press statements suggesting that they are striking the Ukrainian positions both on the Russian territory and on the Ukrainian territory from where the reinforcements to Ukraine are supposed to be coming. However, to this moment, we understand that the residents have been given at least 3 months periods until they would be probably able to go back to their houses. So it is quite a long short that we are talking about now. However, there is the certain certainty in Russia that it is the matter of when rather than if Russia would be able to repel this incursion. And obviously Russian officials here say that the incursion of Russia's Kursk region was an escalation, and if the Western countries pursue this path of escalation, then certainly Russia will be forced to take completely different measures, and Russia's response will be very much different, because Russia believes that the Western countries must have been involved into the preparation of the Kursk incursion. And even though Kyiv says they were planning it on its own, Russia says it is not really the case. And obviously on the issue of negotiations, we have also seen many comments suggesting that those talks are absolutely irrelevant at the moment.
Dasha, thank you. Appreciate it. Dasha Chernyshova there in Moscow. And moving focus from Europe to the Americas now, former US President Donald Trump has been charged with a new indictment on Tuesday, accusing him of illegally trying to overturn his 2020 election loss. Special counsel Jack Smith's team accused Trump of a multi-part conspiracy to block the certification of his election defeat to Joe Biden. It asked the court to revive the criminal case accusing Trump of retaining classified documents after a lower court dismissed the indictment in July. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's running mate J.D. Vance said that the conspiracy charge against Trump was an attempt to interfere in the upcoming 5th November election. Vance insisted that presidents, like judges and police officers, should enjoy some immunity.
Well, I think just my pushback on what they said is, look, if the president doesn't have some level of immunity in how he conducts his office, in the same way that judges have to have immunity, police officers have to have immunity, there has to be some recognition that people can't be sued for doing their job. And, you know, the way that I think about it is try to make this nonpartisan.
In a TV interview on Tuesday, Donald Trump addressed the assassination attempt on his life last month during a campaign rally in the state of Pennsylvania. Trump said he believed that God had protected him.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that God loves our country and he thinks we're going to bring our country back. He wants to bring it back. It's so bad right now what's happening when you look at the crime, the horrible things that are happening inside our country, and it can be solved. It can be solved fairly quickly. It has to be God. How can you say it's luck when it's, you know, 20 million to 1? Okay, I mean, it's just not possible that I was in that position. It's the only position where that bullet could have missed.
Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is preparing to return to the campaign trail with plans for a two-day bus tour in the state of Georgia with her running mate and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, which is scheduled to begin on Wednesday and culminate with a rally at Savannah in Georgia on Thursday. The tour will include the first campaign events Harris has held since her acceptance of her party's nomination last week at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Their bus tour in Georgia will be the first time the two have campaigned together through the state. Harris and her running mate Tim Walz will give a joint interview to CNN on Thursday. This is their first since being nominated to the party's ticket in November's election. The interview will be broadcast at 0100 GMT on Friday. And still to come on DD India News Hour. U.S. ships could escort Philippine vessels on resupply missions in the South China Sea. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan holds talks with China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. And Venice Film Festival kicks off on Wednesday with the screening of Beetlejuice, a sequel to a cult classic from the 1980s.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will tell you about defense and diplomacy panning out from Poland, Ukraine and right up to United States of America. What does this mean in real tangible terms? How does this underscore India's multipolar worldview by exercising strategic autonomy and much more? Also, what's the strategic implication of Indian military officers being stationed with different US commands? Watch Defense Dynamics this week on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro made major changes to his cabinet, including the heads of the oil and finance ministries and state oil company PDVSA following the disputed presidential election. Maduro mentioned that Anabel Pereira is new finance minister, while Hector Obregon is the new president of the PDVSA. Pedro Telechia will move to head the industry ministry. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez will remain in a post but will add the oil ministry to her portfolio. Maduro added Juan Gil and Vladimir Padrino will remain in their respective posts as foreign minister and defense minister, while ruling party leader Diosdado Cabello will be the new interior, justice and peace minister. Now, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer visited Berlin's iconic Brandenburg Gate on Tuesday on his first visit to Germany as the British Prime Minister. He was accompanied by the British Ambassador to Germany, Jill Gillard. During his visit, Starmer is expected to discuss a landmark economic and defense accord with German leaders on Wednesday to reset relations with the rest of Europe. He also met German President Steinmeier in Berlin on Wednesday. He will also hold talks with Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz on a new pact that they hope will bring about an unprecedented degree of bilateral military, trade and energy cooperation. And Ollie Batter joins us from London for more. Ollie, tell us more about this cooperation treaty between the UK and Germany.
Well, it's something that the UK and Germany hope that they can have negotiated by probably early next year, and it would be wide-ranging. We're told it would focus on cooperation in all sorts of fields, from energy to trade and science, the economies between the two countries, work on migration as well. It may well be that some of those issues go into the Cooperation Pact and some are worked on outside of it, but certainly UK and German officials are optimistic that a wide-ranging agreement can be reached, as I say, probably by early next year. But as you were saying, this does represent the broad attempt by the new UK government to, in its words, reset relations with European Union capitals post-Brexit. Keir Starmer's been heading into these talks with Olaf Scholz about turning the corner on Brexit. There is a sense in which he believes that relations can be improved without taking Britain back towards any type of membership of the European Union or its single market and customs union. But that will leave him open to some criticism domestically here from those who do believe that the UK should be moving back in towards the European Union's orbit, and those on the other side of the political spectrum who will say that Keir Starmer is taking Britain closer towards some kind of future European Union membership, although his Labour government absolutely denies that and says this is really about boosting ties with some of those key European capitals.
Now, Starmer would also be visiting France. What would he hope to achieve in Paris, where he will meet with President Emmanuel Macron?
Some of that visit to Paris is related to the Paralympics. He's going there for the opening ceremony of the Games, but as you say, he'll also be holding talks with Emmanuel Macron and also with French business leaders as well. So some of it relates to the economy. The type of cooperation agreement that the UK and Germany are now working on, there's already one of those in existence between the UK and France. So some of those issues with regards to ongoing cooperation will clearly be discussed. Migration is a key issue between the UK and France because of the fact that so many of those small boat crossings across the English Channel continue to be made, and they come from the French shoreline. The UK and France have been trying to work together on that issue for some time, but have not been able to solve it. So that, you can expect, will be one of the key issues that Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer will be discussing.
Ollie, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Ollie Barrett reporting there from London. And now to the Indo-Pacific, where a US military official on Tuesday said that the US ships could escort Philippine vessels on resupply missions in the South China Sea. The official said that the US military is open to the possibility of escorting Philippine ships in the disputed South China Sea, depending on consultations under the Allies' 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. The remarks were made after a series of maritime and air confrontations between the Philippines and China in the South China Sea in the past week. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in China on a three-day visit aimed at simmering down tensions between the two superpowers ahead of the U.S. election. On the second day of the meetings, the two leaders to discuss issues of West Asia and Ukraine, Chinese territorial claims from Taiwan to the South China Sea, as well as trade. On Tuesday, Sullivan first met with Foreign Minister Wang Yi and talked about areas of agreement and disagreement that need to be managed effectively and substantively. Russia's Vice Minister of Industry and Trade, Roman Chekushov, held a meeting with North Korea's Minister of External Economic Relations, Yoon Jong-ho, on Tuesday in Pyongyang. Chekushov, who arrived in Pyongyang on Monday with a Russian delegation, discussed further developing economic cooperation with North Korean officials, including Yoon and Vice Minister of Chemical Industry, Kim Hwa-sik. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un attended the test of an upgraded 240mm rocket launcher system on Wednesday. The system proved its superiority in mobility and strike concentration during the inspection and testing. Earlier this week, Kim oversaw tests of new suicide drones and urged researchers to develop artificial intelligence for the unmanned vehicles. The US and South Korean officials have accused North Korea of supplying Russia with artillery shells, missiles and other equipment in recent months for Moscow to use in its ongoing conflict with Ukraine. In other news, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has called for stricter regulation of the cyberspace. Ali Khamenei, who has imposed some of the strictest controls on internet access in the world, said that cyberspace needed to be regulated, citing the arrest of messaging app Telegram founder Pavel Durov in France as an example of how other countries also imposed controls. The Islamic Republic has some of the strictest internet controls in the world, but its blocks on US-based social media such as Facebook, Twitter and YouTube are routinely bypassed by tech-savvy Iranians using virtual private networks. Iran regularly charges internet users based on posts they shared online. And now take a look at what else is making news around the world. The Pacific Island states have endorsed an Australian-funded $400 million Australian plan to improve police training and create a mobile regional policing unit to reduce China's security footprints in the region. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said after the plan was agreed by consensus during a meeting of the Pacific Islands leaders in Tonga. The Korea Communications Standards Commission, the state media regulator, held a meeting on 28th August to discuss countermeasures against sexually explicit deepfakes. The concerns came to fore after domestic media reported sexually explicit deepfake images and videos of South Korean women in Telegram chat rooms. Argentina's Vice President Victoria Villarreal promises to reopen all cases of victims of terrorism involving the leftist terror groups that operated in the 1970s, defying human rights organizations that accused her of ignoring the genocide committed during the civil and military dictatorship. And the Buenos Aires Tango Festival witnessed several hundred competitors vying for the world's top titles, attended by 10,000 spectators on the closing night on the 27th of August. With a record 750 couples from 53 countries, the competition showcased the universal appeal of various dance styles with tango onto the spotlight this week. The Venice Film Festival kicks off today with the screening of Beetlejuice. The movie, directed by Tim Burton, is a long-awaited sequel to a cult classic from the 1980s. Giles Gibson explains what else film fans should be looking out for at this year's festival.
The 2023 edition of the Venice Film Festival was missing some star power, with many actors forced to stay away due to strikes in Hollywood at the time. But this year, the strikes are over and the A-listers are back in force. Now, Beetlejuice features Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder, both returning to roles that they first played in the late 1980s. Now, this movie is not part of the competition for the Golden Lion, which is given every year to the festival's best film, but that opening slot in Venice is very prestigious indeed, and it's been the launchpad for Oscar-winning films in the past, including the musical La La Land. Now, for in-competition films, there's a lot of buzz about another sequel. This one that's not quite so long-awaited by fans. Joker Folie à Deux is the follow-up to the 2009 movie Joker, with director Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix both returning. Meanwhile, there's a first for acclaimed Spanish director Pedro Almodóvar, with his first feature film in English, titled The Room Next Door. It stars Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore and is an adaptation of a novel about a war correspondent who's dying of cancer. Critics are also closely watching a film called Maria, which is a biopic based on the life of the iconic opera singer Maria Callas. Angelina Jolie stars as Callas in this depiction of her final years living in Paris before she died of a heart attack in her early 50s. Those are just some of the big names featured in this year's festival, which wraps up on the 7th of September. Giles Gibson in Rome, reporting for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. 28th August marks a decade since India launched the world's largest financial inclusion program. Chile's Foreign Minister Alberto Van Claveren is in India on a 3-day visit. And 279 candidates filed their nominations for Phase 1 of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly election. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. An oil depot in Russia's Rostov region ablaze after Ukraine's drone attack. A day after Zelensky said Kursk advance is part of a victory plan. Donald Trump faces a revised indictment accusing him of illegally trying to overturn his 2020 election loss. Israel frees a hostage from Gaza. The US says it remains hopeful of a possible Gaza ceasefire agreement. August 2024 marks 10 years since India launched the world's largest financial inclusion program called Dhan Yojana. It was designed to bring more Indians into the banking fold. In the last decade, more than 530 million bank accounts have been opened, linked to mobile phone numbers and India's unique identity cards called Aadhaar. The Dhan Yojana played a leading role in harnessing the true potential of India's digital public infrastructure.
प्रधानमंत्री जन धन योजना के माध्यम से हम देश के गरीब से गरीब लोगों को बैंक अकाउंट की सुविधा से जोड़ना चाहते हैं.
The Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana is the world's largest financial inclusion program initiated by the Government of India. It provides affordable access to financial services such as bank accounts, remittances, credit, insurance and pensions to almost every citizen of the country. As of August 2024, there are over 530 million Jan Dhan bank accounts, with a total balance that exceeds 231,000 crore rupees. That's around $28 billion US.
Under the Jan Dhan scheme, more than 500 million bank accounts have been opened for beneficiaries. With regard to processing infrastructure, basic connectivity has been ensured through availability of affordable mobile phones and internet. Even in rural areas, the mobile teledensity is around 60%. The trinity of Jan Dhan accounts, Aadhaar and mobile phones, popularly known as the JAM Trinity, has provided the base DPI infrastructure which is being leveraged for multiple value-added services.
The sheer magnitude of the program has laid the foundation for the success of India's digital public infrastructure that has found praise among world leaders.
Rural farmers in India who never had a relationship with the banking system are now able to transact all their businesses on their smartphone. They pay their bills, they receive payment for orders. 800 million people lifted out of poverty.
What has made the program successful has been that the accounts provide the framework for transferring financial benefits of government schemes directly to the beneficiary. Apart from that, there are life and health insurance schemes, pension schemes, and microcredit facilities that accrue to eligible account holders. To enhance digital access, there are more than 320 million RuPay debit cards provided to these accounts. 67% of them are in rural and semi-urban areas.
Modi has done an unbelievable job in India. He's taken 400 million people out of poverty. He has 400 million people without toilets. Really? And we're lecturing them how to do things? They put in this unbelievable, every citizen by hand or by eyeball or by finger is recognized. They open bank accounts for 700 million people. The transfer payments are going through. They've got an unbelievable education system, unbelievable infrastructure. They're lifting up that whole country.
Aiding the process of financial literacy are 115,900 bank mitras who deliver branchless banking services. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of financial inclusion through the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile has been truly revolutionary. It provided a big bang moment for India's rapid economic transition and growth that 10 years on, we see in almost every aspect of Indian life. Bureau Report, DD India.
So the world's largest financial inclusion initiative called the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana has completed 10 years of its implementation on Wednesday. In a post on social media platform LinkedIn, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that today more than 53 crore people have bank accounts having a deposit balance of more than 2.3 lakh crore rupees. Over 65% of the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts are either in rural or semi-urban areas. Direct transfers worth almost rupees 39 lakh crore have taken place. The Prime Minister further said that Jan Dhan Yojana has proven to be game-changing as far as women's empowerment is concerned. Almost 30 crore women have been brought into the banking system. Now, Jan Dhan Yojana also became a vital pillar of the JAM, that's the JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile. More than 40% of real-time digital payments in the world happen in India. The PM Jan Dhan Yojana personifies dignity, empowerment and the opportunity to participate in the economic life of the nation. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his Chilean counterpart Alberto Van Claveren met at Hyderabad House in New Delhi on Wednesday. Chile's foreign minister is on a 3-day visit to New Delhi for the second India-Chile Joint Commission meeting that took place on Wednesday. Minister Claveren will participate along with his agriculture ministerial colleague Esteban Valenzuela in a Chile-India Business Agriculture Summit before leaving for Mumbai. During the Joint Commission meeting, Minister Jaishankar welcomed the delegates and said that Chile is one of the key partners of India and it values the participation of Chile in the Voice of the Global South Summit.
As I welcome you, let me also say we very much value the participation of Chile in the Voice of Global South summits. We heard your president. He gave a very insightful set of remarks at the summit in August. We also thank you very much for your support for our permanent membership in the Expanded Security Council. Your own participation in the Trade and Economic Ministers meeting in November 2023 is also something we appreciate very deeply.
India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margarita, held meetings with the Crown Prince of the Kingdom of Tonga and Tuvalu's Foreign Minister, Paulson Panapa, during his visit to Tonga on Wednesday. The meetings took place on the margins of the 53rd Pacific Islands Forum Leaders Meeting, being held from the 26th of August to the 30th of August. In his meeting with Tonga's Crown Prince, the minister discussed ways to strengthen close and traditional bilateral ties and also congratulated Tonga for the successful leaders meeting. As many as 279 candidates have filed their nomination papers for the first phase of the election across 24 assembly constituencies in Jammu and Kashmir. Tuesday was the last day of filing nominations to be held for the first phase on the 18th of September. Scrutiny of nomination papers will be held on Wednesday, while withdrawal of nomination papers can be done before the 30th of August. More than 23.27 lakh voters, including 5.66 lakh youths, are eligible to exercise their electoral franchise during the Phase 1 of election. And now take a look at what else is making news in India. A new report by the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago said the life expectancy of Indians' population has been increased by 51 days because of a drop in pollution. The annual report, named Air Quality Life Index 2024, said that India recorded a significant 19.3% drop in pollution in 2022 as compared to the previous year. According to the traders' body, Confederation of All India Traders Association, this year's Janmashtami festival generated a business of more than 25,000 crore rupees. The high sales turnover reflects robust consumer spending, which shoots up during festive celebrations in India. Madhya Pradesh's Chief Minister Mohan Yadav, along with Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia, Madhya Pradesh Assembly Speaker Narendra Singh Tomar and other ministers inaugurated the Regional Industry Conclave in Gwalior. The conclave is aimed at accelerating industrial development of the Gwalior-Chambal region, bringing a capital investment worth 2,260 crore rupees and generating employment for more than 4,500 people. Moving on, Typhoon Shanshan is wreaking havoc across southern Japan, particularly as it nears the Amami archipelago. The severe weather has led to significant disruptions in travel, impacting both bullet trains and air services. Shanshan is expected to make landfall on Japan's southwestern Kyushu island in the coming days, with the Japan Meteorological Agency considering issuing a special warning for Kagoshima Prefecture. The typhoon is expected to approach Japan's central and eastern regions, which includes the capital Tokyo, around the weekend. As a precautionary measure, major airlines have cancelled domestic flights slated to leave or arrive in southwestern Japan till Friday. Some bullet train services in the area are also expected to be cancelled on Wednesday and Thursday. As the typhoon approaches, Japan remains on high alert. Authorities are urging residents and tourists alike to take necessary precautions. And Chris Gilbert joins us now from Tokyo. Chris, tell us more about Typhoon Shanshan, where it is and where it might be headed.
Yeah, just to update a few of those points. First of all, it hit the Amami archipelago about 12 hours ago and has slowly been moving northeast, pivoting towards the main bulk of Japan. Since then, a few hours ago, those warnings, those severe weather warnings for high winds, high waves and deluges were issued by the government, which is taking this storm extremely seriously. Typhoons are fairly common in Japan at this time of year. They are arriving earlier than they historically have due to warmer temperatures experienced in Japan. And the government and the meteorological agency is saying that this could be one of the most powerful typhoons that the country has seen in some decades, and is asking for extreme vigilance. At the moment, it is parked up just on Yakushima Island. Now that is, I guess you could say, the furthest extreme of the main islands of Japan in the southwest, and it is bearing down on the main western island, the large western island of Kyushu, going into this evening Japan time, going into Thursday. That island, home to the major cities of Nagasaki, Fukuoka and Kagoshima, which is already experiencing winds of about 44 meters a second, gusts of 70 meters a second, and rainfall of about 140 millimeters every hour. This part of the country has already experienced a lot of heavy rain over the summer, and so there is a high risk of flooding and a high risk of landslides and mudslides, and there have been evacuation orders of varying seriousness. Japan has a sloping scale of 1 to 5 in terms of their evacuation orders, 5 being a recommendation and 1 being an absolute command. And so evacuation orders on the 3 to 4 have been issued to about 650,000 residents throughout Kyushu in the major cities. And the government is urging people to find sturdy buildings to hunker down in, to stay away from windows, and to get there before the storm arrives while they still have the opportunity to.
Chris, thank you. Appreciate it. Chris Gilbert reporting there from Tokyo. And talking of the weather, as heavy showers continue in the western Indian state of Gujarat, India's Met Department has issued flash flood warning for the Saurashtra region and Kutch district. Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel had a telephone conversation with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday regarding the relief and rescue operations. Patel highlighted that the Indian government has assured to provide all the necessary support and assistance. As per latest reports, Gujarat has received 105.83% average rainfall. The India Meteorological Department has forecast heavy rainfall and issued a red alert for the state. 9 people have lost their lives because of rain-related incidents at different locations in the state, and 1 person is reported missing as per Gandhinagar State Emergency Operations Center. Water levels in dams and rivers rose amid incessant rainfall, prompting evacuations of more than 15,000 people. Because of the heavy to very heavy rains, transportation has been affected across the western Indian state. And Meghna Dev joins us from Gujarat for more. Meghna, what's the latest on the rain and flood-like situation in the state?
Well, Ramesh, what I can tell you as of now is that the situation in Ahmedabad, where I am currently at, is a district in central Gujarat, where we can see that since morning there has been hardly any rainfall, so that has helped the water to recede. Right behind me, you can see that on the road there's hardly any water. The water has receded, and in many other parts of the district of Ahmedabad, water has receded. There have been municipalities have been deploying pumps to pump out water from the societies and residential areas where there is a lot of water logging. Now, when we are talking about different areas in Gujarat, the most affected are the Saurashtra region, the Kutch region, and the South Gujarat region. Saurashtra, where we have Morbi, we have Jamnagar, Rajkot, these regions are very severely affected. There is flood-like situation. Obviously, the dams have overflown. The reason that the number of gates have been opened of different dams, and that has caused flood-like situation in the low-lying areas on where the dams are located. Besides that, Machur River that we are talking about, the Machur Dam in Rajkot, gates have been opened yesterday as well, and so that's the reason that the lower-lying areas are quite flooded. Number of people have been relocated from the low-lying areas. Over 23,000 people have been relocated from the low-lying areas, and around 1,700 people have been rescued. But besides that, what we see as of now, that Dwarka, the coastal district of Gujarat, has received the highest rainfall in the last 24 hours compared to districts across the state. Now, what we obviously predict in the next coming couple of coming days, that the central region of Gujarat, the rainfall will stop. There'll be less rainfall, but the Saurashtra region and the South Gujarat region will receive heavy to very heavy rainfall.
All right, we'll leave it there. Meghna, thank you. Meghna, they're reporting there from Ahmedabad in Gujarat. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Global stocks poised near record highs. Traders say Britain will lag the US in cutting interest rates. And Paris all set to host its first ever Paralympic Games.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will tell you about defense and diplomacy panning out from Poland, Ukraine, and right up to United States of America. What does this mean in real tangible terms? How does this underscore India's multipolar worldview by exercising strategic autonomy, and much more? Also, what's the strategic implication of Indian military officers being stationed with different US commands? Watch Defense Dynamics this week on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. In business news, global stocks were poised near record highs on Wednesday. The trader said that Britain will lag the US in cutting interest rates. The MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan dipped 0.2%. Japan's Nikkei was flat. Brent crude futures traded below $80 a barrel. The S&P 500 went up about 0.2% overnight, while Nasdaq 100 futures NQC1 fell 0.1%. Nvidia's market value has ballooned as the stock price is up some 3,000% since 2019, with a market cap of $3.2 trillion. While debt and currency markets were steady in the Asia session, though the Australian dollar briefly popped to touch its highest since January at 0.6813 to the dollar. And benchmark indices Sensex and Nifty in India recovered from their early lows to trade in the green at mid-session on Wednesday. The Nifty 50 trades at 25,126.6, higher by 0.44%, while the Sensex was at 0.29% higher at 81,949. In early trade, Sensex was at 81,604.24, down 0.13%. Nifty was at 24,977.2, down 0.16% weaker. And now to all the news in the world of sport with my colleague Deepika. Deepika, take it away.
Thanks and good afternoon. First, let's talk about Paralympics. So let's quickly begin with all the latest from Paris Paralympics. The city of Paris is all set to host its first ever Summer Paralympic Games in a grand opening ceremony scheduled for tonight. And with its strongest contingent ever at the Paris Paralympics, India is all set to create a new record this time around. Our next report brings you an overall preview of India at Paris Paralympics 2024.
Paris is all set to host 4,400 para-athletes as the 17th edition of Summer Paralympics is all set to kick off with a grand opening ceremony. The ceremony will again take place outside the confines of a stadium, with athletes parading down the famous avenue, culminating in a celebration and official opening of the Paralympic Games at the iconic square in front of thousands of spectators. Around 4,400 athletes from 184 delegations will lit the stage in Paris over 15 days. A total of 549 medal events will take place across 22 sports, a big increase from the inaugural Paralympic Games in 1960, when just 8 sports were on the schedule. A total of 164 medal events are there in para-athletics and 141 in para-swimming, which are the 2 biggest sports. India is sending their largest ever contingent of 84 athletes. Javelin thrower Sumit Antil and shot putter Bhagyashree Jadhav will be India's flag bearers at the opening ceremony. At Paris, India is set to make a significant leap in its representation. In Tokyo, India sent 54 athletes, which has now expanded to 84 athletes in Paris. A number of reigning Paralympic and world champion will be in action, from shooter Avni Lekhra, Krishna Nagar to civil servant and para-badminton player Suhas Yatiraj. 2-time Paralympic medalist Maria Panthangavelu and Nishad Kumar would want to replicate their Tokyo success. From Tokyo silver medalist Bhavina Patil to debutante archer Sheetal Devi, the athletes are ready for the big stage.
अपने देश की तरफ से प्रतिनिधित्व करना एक बहुत बड़ा गौरव की बात होती है, तो बहुत ही अच्छा लग रहा है। यस, टोक्यो पैरालंपिक्स गेम्स में मैंने सिल्वर मेडल जीता था, इस बार भी मैं अपना बेस्ट देना चाहूँगी।
4 साल से मैं इसके लिए मेहनत कर रही हूँ। लास्ट टाइम मैं 2021 में ट्रायल नहीं दे पाई थी क्योंकि मेरी परफॉर्मेंस इतनी अच्छी नहीं थी, तो उसके बाद मैंने पूरा डिसिप्लिन में रह के पूरा अपना डाइट प्लस ट्रेनिंग पूरा प्रॉपर अच्छे से करके अब मेरी परफॉर्मेंस अच्छी आई है और मेरा इधर पैरालंपिक्स 2024 में सिलेक्शन हुआ है।
At the Hangzhou 2022 Asian Para Games, 303 athletes participated across 17 sports and brought home a record 111 medals, the most India has ever won at an international multi-sport event. With a mix of seasoned champions and promising newcomers, the Indian para-athletes will strive to make a significant impact in Paris. Abhishek Prasad's report for DD India.
And now I'm joined by DD India correspondent from Paris, Ross Cullen. A very good afternoon to you from India. Ross, how are the preparations going on for the mega opening ceremony of Paralympics? Ross.
Hi Deepika. Well, the opening ceremony will be taking place behind me on the Champs-Élysées this evening. Very exciting times here in Paris. After a 2.5-week break since the end of the record-breaking Olympic Games, it's now time for the second half of Paris 2024 with the Paralympics. The overall president of Paris 2024, Tony Estanguet, has said that it was the atmosphere that made the Olympics so special, and so we will do exactly the same thing with the Paralympic Games. The parade will form the first half of the opening ceremony. They'll start at the Arc de Triomphe and then come down the Champs-Élysées, which is behind me here in the centre of the French capital, before finishing at Place de la Concorde, which is the biggest square in Paris and where the Olympic urban zone was for the BMX and for the skateboarding. That has been adapted now to be able to host the official parade ending and then the start of the ceremony. We expect artistic and music performances. Indeed, we did hear a lot of music being played yesterday as they were going through some of the dress rehearsals for the ceremony. Disabled athletes and disabled performers expected to play a major role in the opening ceremony before the competition can get underway proper. That's tomorrow on Thursday, when we'll see 22 gold medals being awarded.
Sounds exciting. Thank you so much, Ross, for joining us and bringing us a quick update on how Paris is preparing for it. Moving on, first up from cricket now. England's former #1 ranked T20I batter David Malan has announced his retirement from international cricket at the age of 37. Now, in his illustrious career, David Malan has played 22 tests, 30 ODIs and 62 T20 internationals. Not only this, he is also one of only 2 England men's batter alongside Jos Buttler to have made centuries in all 3 international formats. However, he had not featured in an England squad since the 50-over World Cup in India last year. David confirmed his decision of retirement after his omission from the forthcoming white ball series against Australia. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to you.
Thank you, Deepika. And before we close, you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download it. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. How many goals are you?